For 14 years I've been measured, optimized, watched, and I still am. This is not a story I'm telling you from the other side of some brave exit. I haven't left, it's still my job, and I won't pretend the reasons away. There's money, there's a family, there's a life that leans on me. So I built this in the margins, at night, in the cracks of a career made entirely of strategy. And I brought that career's deepest instinct with me, the belief that with enough data, enough structure, enough strategy, you can engineer any outcome, including, I assumed, a voice. So I built a document, 100 ideas, sorted, sequenced, positioned, and I told myself that if I got the positioning exactly right, the originality would follow. It won't, it can't, you cannot position your way to originality. And I only know that because of something a stranger's grandmother once said in the comments of a channel I don't even run anymore. Let me tell you what I actually do for a living because it matters. For over a decade, right up to this morning, my job has been positioning. Not the vague kind, the technical kind. I build segmentation models, I do targeting, I decide which message reaches which person and when and why. I build the dashboards that tell entire sales forces where to aim. I design the incentives that move them. And here's what that career quietly taught me to believe, that with enough data, enough structure, enough strategy, you can engineer any outcome, including, I assumed, a voice. So when I started here, I reached for the tools I trusted. Maybe you've reached for them too. The positioning statement, the one sentence that's supposed to capture what makes you different. The niche down exercise, find the gap in the market, the white space nobody's filled yet. The brand archetype, are you the sage, the rebel, the explorer, the competitor audit? Study everyone else, then find the angle they missed. Every one of these is a real tool, and I'm not going to stand here and tell you they're worthless, because they're not. They will make you clearer, more organized, easier to find. They did all of that for me and I would use them again tomorrow. But not one of them will make you original. I remember exactly when I ran down on other channels. The archetype quiz, the one sentence promise, the positioning statement. I filled every box and I remember reading it back and feeling nothing. It was clean, it was correct, it described a channel that could have belonged to anyone who'd read the same playbook I had. I would build a perfect label for a jar with nothing inside it. A whole career spent telling other people they could engineer a distinctiveness, and there I was proving to an audience of one that I couldn't engineer my own. And that's the part I spend a lot of time getting wrong. Because on paper, clear and original looks almost the same. They are not the same thing. One is arrangement, the other is substance, and no amount of arranging has ever once produced substance that wasn't already there. I had to fail at this in a very specific way before I could see it, so let me show you the exact place the whole idea breaks. Here is the distinction I missed, and it took me an entire channel, one I built, poured myself into and eventually walked away from, to feel it in my body instead of just knowing it on a slide. Positioning is a map, and a map is an extraordinary thing. It can save your life, it can show you where you stand, keep you from walking in circles, get you home in the dark. But a map can only describe territory that already exists. You cannot draw your way to a country. You can draw the most beautiful, detailed, confident map of a place you have never been, and it will still be fiction. Wishful cartography, lines pointing at nothing. That is exactly what a positioning exercise is when there's nothing underneath it, a map of a self you haven't lived yet. I could sit here and draw you a gorgeous map of the deep ocean floor, trenches, ridges, currents, all of it labeled in confident ink. And if I'd never been down there, every line would be a guess wearing the costume of knowledge. It would look authoritative and mean nothing. A viewer can't always tell you why, but they can feel the difference between a map drawn from memory and a map drawn from a life. They feel the hollow. They always feel the hollow. In the pharmaceutical market which I work, this is so obvious I've never once questioned it. My segmentation has never created a doctor. My targeting has never invented a patient. Everything that a strategy does, everything it can do, is find the fit between something real that already exists and the people who need it. The medicine has to exist first. The need has to be real, positioning comes after. It organizes reality, it never ever produces it. I just never turned that lens on myself, because with my own work, I had the order reversed. I believed that if I positioned it hard enough, cleverly enough, the substance would show up to fill the frame, that the strategy would summon the self. but it runs the other way. It always runs the other way. You leave something first, and then, only then, positioning has something to point at. The map comes after the walk, never before it. And this is why it can't be faked. Anyone can be handed the map. That's the nature of a map. It's transferable. Your competitor can read the same books, run the same exercises, copy your positioning statement word for word. What no one can hand you is the walk. The walk is the one thing that stays yours. So then, the real question isn't what's my positioning, it's where have I actually walked? And that question is harder than it sounds, because of one thing you can't see about yourself. If living is the thing that actually makes you original, why do we keep reaching for the worksheet instead? I know my answer, and I suspect it's yours. Because the worksheet is measurable. You can finish it. You can complete the positioning statement and feel that small, clean satisfaction of a box checked, a deliverable done. It has an output. It looks like progress because it produces something you can hold up and show someone. Living doesn't do that. Going deep in something for its own sake produces nothing you can put in a report. There is no KPI for I sat with this until it changed me. No dashboard tracks the night you fell into a subject and climbed out at 4 in the morning, a little ashamed, telling yourself you wasted the time. The single most valuable thing you can do, quietly accumulate real specific hard-won experience, is completely invisible to every instrument I was ever trained to trust. And this is the ghost, not one I exorcised and escaped, one I still live with every single day in the job I still walk into. The voice that says, if it isn't measured, it didn't happen. If you're not producing, you're not worth anything. For 14 years, I've been trained to believe only the measurable is real, so of course I reach for the worksheet. The worksheet is the only part of any of these that my ghost can actually see. It steers me every time back toward the thing with a metric on it, and away from the thing that is quietly making me myself. And here's the cruel joke underneath all of it. Originality is, by definition, the one thing that has no data, no benchmark, no best practice, no proven template, because you are the first person ever to stand exactly where you're standing. The instruments go quietly at the precise moment you start to matter. So if you only trust what the instruments can measure, you will turn back at the exact spot where you were about to become impossible to copy. You retreat to the worksheet, because it lights up, because it scores, because it feels like control. And you will call that being strategy. It isn't. It's the ghost choosing the map over the country one more time. The good news is that the way out is almost embarrassingly simple. It just won't feel like work, which, if you've been listening, is exactly why it's the work. So here's what to do instead, tonight. Close the positioning document. Actually close it. Put the worksheet away. Now take something to write on, by hand. This part matters because your own handwriting is much harder to lie to than a cursor blinking in a clean template. Don't list what you know. Knowledge is borrowed. It's books and other people's experience, and anyone can go get the same. List what you lived instead. What cost you something, what you paid for in wants and not intuition. Ask it plainly and don't edit the answers for how they sound. What followed you out the door when you tried to leave your old life behind? What do you understand not because you study it, but because you survived it? What's the thing you can't stop caring about? The one nobody asked you to care about, the one that feels a little too specific to admit. What part of your past still clings to your ankles? That list, not the worksheet, is your actual material. Everything real you'll ever make comes out of there. And now finally you're allowed to position, because now there's something to point at. Positioning stops being invention and becomes what it was always meant to be, naming. You look at what you've lived and you name it clearly so the right people can find it. The map drawn after the walk. In that order it's honest, in that order it works. Let me show you the order as plainly as I can using the channel I told you I walked away from. Before this, I built a channel about ancient myths, and I could have positioned it from a worksheet. Ancient story, underserved niche, evergreen search, mythology is trending. All true, all strategic. I could have written that sentence in an afternoon from everything my career has taught me. And it would have been that on arrival, a map of nowhere, a frame around an empty room. That's not what happened. What happened is I went looking for 2,000-year-old stories and kept finding my own ghosts waiting inside them. The inner judge, the productivity that wouldn't die, the 14 years I was trying to exercise. I never positioned that channel, I lived it. It became the most unmistakable mine thing I had ever made, and no one could have copied it because no one else had my ghosts. Life eventually made me set it down. Money and family had the final say. But it taught me the one thing I'm handing you now. I did not strategize my way to that voice. I lived my way to it. And the proof, the thing that made me start over here, came from a stranger. One test before you publish anything. Ask, could this have come out of a worksheet? Or could it only have come out of a life? If a strategist with your exact spreadsheet could have generated, you haven't gone deep enough yet. Go back down. Keep going until the only person on earth who could have made this thing is you. A viewer told me once what his grandmother taught him. There are 3 ways to learn, she said, from other people, from books, and from your own experience. Then she asked him which one matters most. He guessed books. She smiled and told him no. First from others, then from books, and last from your own experience. Last because your own experience is the one that costs you. Everything you can borrow, every book, every framework, every positioning worksheet I ever built can make you good. It can help you walk further with fewer wounds. That's real and it's worth having. Take all of it. But the one thing that makes you impossible to copy is the one she ranked last. Not the borrowed knowledge, the lived kind, the expensive kind, the one with the scars still on it. So put the worksheet away. Write down what you've lived and position from there. I noticed this, that teaching wasn't even mine. A stranger left it in the comments of a channel I walked away from, the last real thing it ever gave me before I closed the door. I couldn't have planned that. I couldn't have positioned for it. It only happened because on that channel I had finally stopped performing and started living out loud. That comment became the seed of this, the one thing worth carrying out of the wreckage of a project I abandoned, which is the whole point. The archive begins, not mine, yours.